right, this is going to be a lot of fun. This is year number 2. I can't believe it's already been a year since the last time. For those of you tuning in on YouTube, for those of you tuning into the podcast, if you're a new listener, you guys don't know what I'm talking about. This is our second annual at FVOTB Pod College Bowl Season Pick'em. We are joined by a couple special guests. We'll get to introduce them here in a second. We're going to be picking all 44 bowl games, plus we have the extra game with the national championship, and I'll give you guys opinions on betting lines, who you guys should pick, who we think is going to win. We'll be putting out Twitter polls and all that kind of stuff. But before we get into all that, let's go ahead. Let's reintroduce our esteemed panel, both guys that have been on the podcast plenty of times. But we'll start. Jeremy, you were our first recurring guest. You've done Masters, you've done bowl season last year, you did March Madness this year.
March Madness.
So, yeah, with Jeremy, reintroduce yourself to the people who might not know you.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for having me back on for like the 100th time, it feels like. Like Jimmy said, can't believe it's already been a year. It seems like it's now become a tradition to do the bowl pool, and it sounds like you guys have been killing it with the podcast, so props to both of you. Excited to be back. Hopefully take the crown this year, because last year I know I got my butt kicked. So did a little bit more homework and ready to go.
I feel like this year's going to just be a lot more competitive. Speaking of taking the crown, I guess we should introduce the guy who has technically the crown. Didn't take advantage of it. I told him he could pick what the stipulation was going to be when he won last year. My brother and now podcasting partner with my other show, the Dago Express, Nick or Dom. What are we going to go with tonight? Your Twitter still says Dom, so I feel like Dom is okay. Well, what are we going with?
In all fairness, I tried to change it on Twitter, and it actually wouldn't let me. Not entirely. I guess I don't know. I'm not entirely sure why, but for the sake of this show, we'll go with Dom since I've been on this show before as Dom. And yes, I do have the crown. I'm not looking to give it away, and I did not take advantage of it last year, but it was partially because a lot of very busy, a lot of college things going on, all that different stuff. So I have an idea for this year. That's the hope, at least.
Yeah, I want to say I think I came in last year, so I'm bringing up the rear. I'll be honest.
You've been very open about your lack of college football.
Oh, it's an absolutely abysmal. Like I'm picking like hats in a straw. Oh, I've heard this player before, so I guess I'll pick this team.
Beautiful.
It's like because obviously I pay more attention to the college basketball scene and all, like especially when it comes to tournament time. But when it comes to college bowl season, like I know like the top 25 at the most, and that's pushing it.
That's fair.
That's pushing it.
Yeah, no, this year, I'll be honest with you, since I didn't win last year, the amount of college football that I've watched so far, and then I have my notebook over there. I didn't have it over here because I'd be flipping through pages. I took like 4 pages of notes. On all the games that I had a little bit of uncertainty about, I took 4 pages of notes. There's a lot of teams on here that are like 7-5 and have played like 4 1-11 teams, so you're picking based on record, you're gonna have a bad time. If you're
I'm picking based off of like the ones I'll probably watch most of them, but the ones I won't have an eye on, I'm definitely just picking a straw in a hat. Like it's not necessarily a reason behind it.
I just want to point out though, he gave me shit for taking notes last year. I'm the one who took all the notes last year, and now I guess
it paid off. And it paid off.
That's what I'm saying. So obviously you didn't do you obviously don't want to retain the crown.
Well, I do want to retain the crown. That's why I took my notes this year.
There's a very famous saying, a blind squirrel can find a nut. And I feel like that's what last year was.
Dom, all I'm going to say is this. Whatever's been working for you last year, continue to do it.
That's exactly
Even though
what
I'm going to take it this year.
All right, before we're going to talk, we have one bit of news to get to because it broke after Nico and I recorded our episode that came out already this week. Strategy for how you pick. We got Nico's strategy. Kind of put him in a hat, and if he doesn't know the team, he's just picking. He's your girlfriend picking the March Madness Bowl. Oh, Bearcat could beat up a mountain lion, right?
I'm not that stupid.
I know. It's in jest. Okay, draft or pick strategy.
I usually take as many notes as I can. I look at the strength of schedule. I look at how many points that they put up against their opponents, and I kind of gauge based off of that. Like you said, there's some 7-5 teams that have played like 1-11, 2-10 teams, so you got to take that into account too. To me, if they play teams like that, you got to make sure that they beat them by enough points for you to actually count it. Because if they are already 1-11 and they don't really have anything to fight for, then there's no reason to. But you know what I mean. So you just kind of got to. There's a lot of different things in play, but to me, that's how I look at it.
I like that.
Strategy going into this.
I got 3 things for the strategy. 1, like what Dom said, strength of schedule is 1. 2, which you guys haven't touched on yet, but we'll touch a bunch on, is who's actually sitting out of the bowl games and who's playing in the bowl games. And 3, where is actually the bowl games being played? Are they playing, is the East Coast playing in the West Coast, or is the West Coast team playing in the Bahamas? You don't know. So that's kind of my strategy going in. Hopefully it pays off this year. But without further ado, let's get started.
Yep. Before we get into the picks, Urban Meyer, college football coaching legend, did get fired finally, at long last. Now, I was expecting it since week 3 is when the finger banging video came out, and it just hasn't gotten any better from there. And now reports are that he kicked his kicker, and that's how you have to get fired from the Jaguars organization is so toxic. The only way to get actually fired is to kick your own kicker. And then when you leave after you're like 1-11 or whatever, maybe they've won 2 games, you tell all of your coaching staff how bad they fucking suck. And I had a better staff at Bowling Green. That's where we're at with Urban Meyer. I don't know what anybody else expected. I know, Jeremy, you're an Ohio State fan, so I'm very interested to get your take on this. But is he the worst person to ever coach in college sports?
Jeremy had Urban Meyer cheer him on while he was golfing.
That's right.
So
that's right. I love Urban Meyer, but obviously his actions the last year have not been very good, very unprofessional. But I will say he does know how to coach college football, but I don't know if he knows, and I don't know if he knows how to coach NFL football. More importantly, I don't know if he knows how to coach football in this day and age. It seems like he's more of an old school coach that hasn't adapted to the new ways. I mean, he does kind of own Nick Saban in college football. I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole. But that being said, I think his days have passed. I think he needs to take some time off college football and NFL in general. And honestly, the Jaguars' job, like you said, just a complete disaster, top to bottom. You started from the owner all the way, to the city where they're located in. I've never seen the Jaguars. I think they had one AFC Championship run like a couple years ago.
They had one AFC Championship run against the Broncos. I want to say in like the early '90s or late '90s.
And then the one in 2015.
That's it. Yeah.
They lost to the Patriots, and that was Brady's last one with the Patriots. But yeah,
complete disaster. Just a complete disaster.
There was no other way that this could go. I mean, everywhere that Urban comes from, we're gonna make sure anything bad, anything poor, and this is what you can do in college football. Anything wrong that you've done, we can sweep under the rug. We can make people forget about it. You come out, you apologize, and we'll move on. The NFL does not do that. No. The NFL brings up anything and everything that you could have and will have done wrong. We saw that when he brought in that dumbass strength coach. The first of many bad decisions that I think led us down this road. When you brought in the strength coach with the sexual harassment allegations, knowing that he had the sexual harassment allegations and thinking that was going to be a good idea, that was the complete wrong move.
He is very, very good in college football because of be able to control his situation. Control what your players do, control where the classes are.
Doesn't hurt that you get the best players.
Exactly. Where they eat, where they sleep, all of that. The NFL is a completely different story. These are grown men that you're trying to control, and it's not the same thing. When you go to when you play college football, you come straight out of high school especially, you're a deer in the headlights. You're brand new to all this, and going to the NFL is completely different. These guys are the best at their position in college football. College football players, most of those players don't play at the next level. This is their last year of football. Yeah. So they're there for the love of the game. Mm-hmm. NFL, you're there getting paid, you're there to win games, you're there to make a living. Completely different story, and Urban Meyer just did not take that into consideration. That's why a lot of college coaches in general don't work at the NFL level.
Yeah,
very few. Jim Harbaugh, maybe Pete Carroll. It's about the only two I can think of.
It normally takes you one time.
Jimmy Johnson too.
Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson's one of the rare cases where he went right to the NFL and had success.
Yeah.
And that was
Maybe it's because of the team also, how good the Cowboys.
It was the train robbery trade when they traded Herschel Walker for like 18 picks to Minnesota or whatever. That was how they got all those guys. But if you come in and you're a college coach going into the NFL, I mean, even look at a guy like Joe Brady, who owned college football in 2019. He's already fired 2 years into his NFL coaching job. It is totally different.
I have a little bit of insight with him here in a little bit. We'll talk about him in a minute.
I guess that's a good enough time as any to transition. Let's go ahead. We'll start on Friday, December 17th, and we'll go ahead and start getting into our bowl picks. Pause. December 17th, the games that are starting a little bit later on today. We have the Bahamas Bowl and the Cure Bowl. We're starting with the Bahamas Bowl. Middle Tennessee versus Toledo. Middle Tennessee coming in 6-6, and Toledo 7-5. I mentioned it in the little preamble that we had there. There's a lot of teams that made bowl eligibility by beating up on a lot of very bad teams also. Middle Tennessee might be one of those teams. Now, it's Conference USA. I have not watched a ton of these games, and I'm a guy who loves watching college football. I have not watched a ton of Middle Tennessee. But I will tell you that when you're beating teams with 1 and 2 wins by like 3 or 4 points, doesn't really give me a whole lot of confidence. That being said, what are some of the thoughts that we have in this game? And Jeremy, we'll kick it off with you. What do you got for this one?
Well, I haven't, unfortunately, I know, shame on me, not watch a lot of Tuesday Maction. But that being said, I do, in fact, remember one game that sticks out to me, and this is why I'm rolling with them. It's actually Toledo, who had the lead late against Notre Dame, in Notre Dame, week 2. They ended up blowing the game, losing 32-29. I'm going to roll with Toledo here. Jimmy, like you said, Middle Tennessee hasn't beaten really anybody. The line on this, I believe, is 7.5. I kind of like Toledo covering here this for the Bahamas Bowl, which usually is always kind of a clown show. I mean, there was one game where I think Central Michigan a long time ago had some Hail Mary or a bunch of lob passes back and ended up being so. I know
this one is chaos.
Yeah, chaos. Yeah. Chaos. They should call this the Chaos Bowl.
I don't know what's going to have more chaos. This one, I think the Barstool Bowl is going to be a shit show, but I'm here for it. But yeah, the Bahamas Bowl. There was one year where Western Kentucky.
That's it.
They were, I think, 10-1 or 11-1 on the season. They won their conference. They were all excited. They were down by 35 at halftime, and nobody gave them a chance. They come all the way back. And like Jeremy said, it was 4 or 5 laterals on the Hail Mary, and they came back all the way and won. And it might have been, I think that was Paxton Lynch's Memphis team. That was Paxton Lynch's Memphis team that blew that lead.
I need to say that name around here.
That's okay. He lost the game, and we still drafted him. That's fine. That's cool. John Elway knows what he's doing. All right, Nick, what do you got on this one?
I'm going to go Toledo here as well. Like Jeremy said, Andrew, you said as well, Middle Tennessee is a school that it's probably one of their first bowl games in I don't know how long. And Toledo is always around the top of the MAC. They may not win it every year, but they're always sneaking around, keeping some sort of conversation about being on top of the MAC. So for that reason, Toledo, I'm going Toledo here with a 7-5 record, getting the first win of the bowl season.
Are you going with the group, or are you going to be the one black sheep?
I will go with the group. And I don't want to be too repetitive, but I said it in the intro when we were talking about our pick strategy. I usually go with who have they beaten, what's their record, have they beaten them by a ton of points, and like you said, I think their opponent's win record combined is 5-40, 50 something. And truthfully, in those games, they haven't really been as dominant as I would have expected them to be. So I'm going with Toledo as well.
Yeah, I'm going with the Rockets from Toledo. MAC football is wild. I talk about Pardon My Take a lot. They talked about it when the MACtion did start this year on Tuesday night. I believe the first Tuesday night they had a prop bet in their Barstool Sportsbook app where if it was 7.5 missed field goals or PATs, and it hit the over by 14. It was ridiculous. Speaking of betting lines for this game before we move on, it's a 10-point spread now.
10-point spread.
With MyBookie, be sure if you're going to bet at this bowl season, MyBookie.ag, use a promo code BENCH, and you'll double your first deposit. Middle Tennessee is a +10. +10, +295 outright. Toledo -370 money line. Over/under is 49.5. Now, I would say Bahamas Bowl. If you bet the under, you're just hope
there's a hurricane that
never bet an under in a bowl game.
You're hoping for a bad time. You don't want to have fun if you bet the under in the Bahamas Bowl. That being said, it's not going to hit the over. Smash the over.
49.5 is just so damn fun to look at. The next couple is where it gets interesting, because when you get to the 60-point over-unders, that's where you're I don't know if I'm really going to do that much.
There's a few teams. There's a couple teams. I bet on the Wake Forest North Carolina game, and I think I parlayed the spread, and I think the over-under was at 72.5. I go, I hit the over on that one. I go, I'm not sure about that. And it was 84 points by the end of the third quarter when Wake Forest and North Carolina played this game.
Yeah, 49 is basically a lob. You just got to take that and run with it.
This is where you line your pocketbook. You start
the Bahamas.
You start things off good, and with this over, and then you see how things go from there. Other game taking place, the Cure Bowl, Northern Illinois, second runner-up in the MAC, and Coastal Carolina, third in the Conference USA. They had a couple losses this year, so the Chanticleers not coming in undefeated, but obviously they're still a lot of fun to talk about because of what they did during that COVID season last year. Jeremy, what are you thinking about this game?
So this is a tough game for me to pick, honestly. Obviously, Jimmy, I know your heart is on the Chanticleers. I think it was the Mighty Mites, the offensive
Their offensive line last year was incredible. Yes.
What is the line on the book?
This one is 10.5.
10
Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, -11.
-11. Okay, so
over under 63.
So I mean, well, to start, I mean, I like Northern Illinois to cover. This is a battle between two pretty veteran quarterbacks. Grayson Mccall, who obviously is probably going to get drafted, I believe. I mean, I know he's not going to be a day one pick, but he's got potential. He's got 23 touchdowns on the year, about 2,500 yards passing. And then Rocky Lombardi, the transfer from Michigan State, lost on a heartbreaker in the championship game. And so, I mean, he's got 2,400 yards passing this year. He's just a winner. I like Coastal Carolina to win. I like Northern Illinois to cover.
See, I'm gonna differ here. I look. I'm picking the Chanticleers as well, but I think they cover. I think South Carolina still has a little bit of edge from last year. I think Northern Illinois is kind of like a deer in the headlights. Rocky Lombardi is obviously a stud, but I think it's a completely different story when it comes to bowl season. You're playing against a team that has back-to-back seasons with 5 or less losses, like for the first time I think in program history. Mm-hmm. So for that reason, I'm going to go with Coastal Carolina. I had them in my ride the slope this past week on Monday, and I'm still going to keep it at -11.
Yeah, I remember that ride the slope. That's why I was interested to see what happened when we got to this one. What do you got for this?
I'm also picking Coastal Carolina. I like them over Northern Illinois, mainly because, like you said, it's the first time, I think, 2 years in a row, back-to-back 5-game losses each year. So I think that they're kind of, like, I guess they're riding the slope, right? They're falling down a little bit. So I like Coastal Carolina over Northern Illinois.
This is going to be the first of probably many tonight. Not so fast. Northern Illinois, yes, they're 9-4. They did come back and win the MAC. Win the MAC. I was mistaken about that. So their losses this season: Wyoming 50-43, Michigan. We don't have to count. That's their outlier that I'm going to throw out there. 63-10. With what Michigan did to Ohio State, that should not be a surprise to anybody. Kent State 52-47, and then second to last week of the season, they lost to Western Michigan 42-21. Here's the thing, though. In the MAC championship, they played Kent State again, came back and won. They're also playing teams like Wyoming. They beat Georgia Tech at the beginning of the year.
It's a good win.
That's a good Power 5 win. Northern Illinois is not a team to sleep on. So I'm going to go with the MAC champions. I think that they beat the Chanticleers. Honestly, this one, the 63 is high, but I think that these two teams are going to have a lot of points, and it's going to be whoever's defense shows up in the right spots. And there's not going to be any defense played in the Cure Bowl. Whose defense shows up in the right spots, and I'm putting my faith that Northern Illinois will do that. I like their head coach a lot as well. They've been on the uptick as a program, so I'm going Northern Illinois.
Well, listen to the scores you just read off. And do you really think after that many points either let up or scored, do you really think that this would hit the under? Hell no. I think the over is going to hit by a lot here. Like 66 is very, very reasonable. And then those scores, let alone on Northern Illinois, Coastal Carolina doesn't win games like 10-6, 10-7 either. No. So like this is a game that the over is. There's a reason why it's at over under 66, but I still would take the over.
Yes, and I think I'm looking here at Northern Illinois' schedule. I think they've scored less than 25 in 2 games. There's 2 games that they scored less than 25, and Coastal Carolina on their schedule. Let's see. There was no games where they scored less than 25 points. So this is another one. Put it in the over. Let it hit,
the over on this one too.
And that's going to be all that she wrote. But I'm the only one going with NIU. Everybody else is on Coastal Carolina. So that's Friday's slated games. We'll go ahead. We'll move on to the 18th tomorrow and start off with the Boca Raton Bowl. Starting off in the Boca Raton Bowl, Appalachian State, one of the teams that knocked off Coastal Carolina this season, versus Western Kentucky, another CUSA action matchup. This one, not a ton. Obvious. This one is a little bit more straightforward than some of the games we've seen so far. So we'll go ahead. We'll get right to the picks. Jeremy, what are you thinking about this game?
I got a couple thoughts on this game. I have experience watching both teams, actually. Western Kentucky actually played my Hoosiers this year, and it was the one of only 2 games that we won, so we're not going to get into that.
So that means I'm definitely running out of state, I guess.
That being said, I was originally going to go to Western Kentucky. Their offensive coordinator, I really wanted to be on staff at IU. He ended up getting the Texas Tech job. Listen to this. This guy, Bailey Zappe, who's the quarterback for Western Kentucky, has 5,500 yards passing, 56 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. So this guy's going to be throwing the ball a lot. So I do like that fact, but I'm going to go with Appalachian State just because of a couple things. Obviously, Western Kentucky losing their offensive coordinator to Tech, that was tough. I think the Western Kentucky's offensive coordinator is Zach Kidley. And then I do like Chase Bryce. He was the transfer from Clemson. He played Miami, did watch the game there. Really tough. Miami had to barely pull that game out. So Appalachian State has some Power 5 experience, being that it is in the Boca Raton Bowl. Again, one of these bowls where you just, you look at that over-under and you're just like, there's going to be a lot of points scored here. So I do like Appalachian State just because of the fact that Western Kentucky's offensive coordinator is not coaching in the game.
Yeah, and on top of that, I love the Chase Bryce factor. Him being at Clemson, I think is going to be a big, especially in bowl games. Because we talk about teams that are fresh or these lower level bowl games. You think about players that have played in big time games that necessarily aren't necessarily bigger bowl games. And Chase Bryce has that experience. And out there at Appalachian State, only at -3. I like those odds a lot.
Yeah. Western
Kentucky, like you said, great passer, but I think it's very, very hard to go against a team that played great football all season long in Appalachian State. So I'm going to go whatever their mascot is. I don't even know what their mascot
The Mountaineers.
is. Mountaineers. I'm going to go
It's the Appalachian Mountains.
In Boone,
That's right.
North Carolina.
Yep.
Yeah, no surprise here. I'm going with Appalachian State too. Looking at their schedule, I see they beat Georgia State. That's a good win. They beat Coastal Carolina. That's another good win. They did lose to Louisiana twice this year, actually. The first one they ended up damn good team. Very well deserving of the 16th rank in the country. They did lose by big, 41-13 on October 12th, and then they came back just last weekend or 2 weekends ago. I'm not sure which, December 4th, and they made it a closer game, but they did still lose. But either way, I'm going with Appalachian State. I like them over Western Kentucky.
I don't think I can pick a school. I can't pick against a school that has the same mascot as the school that I went to. You don't have to worry about it. There's no other Hoosier in the country. The Lopers and the Lopes is a big discrimination thing. We almost got to a fight. Yeah, I know. But Nebraska Kearney is the Lopers, and that's who Western played.
Who are the Lopers?
Yeah, no, that's who Western played in the playoffs. Nico almost beat me up and kicked me out when I said Lopes down, but it's Lopers down.
Lopers down.
So I'm going Appalachian State mainly because the program, ever since that Michigan upset, has just continued to grow, and they're solidified in the Conference USA right now. I think that they could maybe be moved into the...
I was going to say, are they moving to the American?
They could. I mean, they very easily could. They could also, I could see them maybe going to ACC at some point. They're getting to that level as a program. So Appalachian State is in a good spot. We're clean sweep for the Mountaineers in that one. Western Kentucky, it's going to be fun. Western Kentucky's a ton of fun to watch. Obviously, just look at all of their games. Zappa has thrown for over 300 yards except for one game this season. So it's going to have a high flying acrobatics.
This may be one of the most entertaining, I think, first weekend games of the bowl season, no doubt.
This is the one that draws you in. But by the way, I don't understand not watching a bowl game. I got a Fitbit 2 Christmases ago, and the first day that I had it on, I did not move from the spot on my couch. And my Fitbit was like, "Are you okay?
Are you?
Did you tell us? Are you paralyzed and forgot to tell us?
Yeah.
Or no? I'm just football. Done all day. Next bowl game that we have, the Celebration Bowl. Jackson State in the news for flipping the number 2 recruit, getting number one recruit, the highest recruit ever at the FCS, and one of the biggest recruits at the HBCU level. And they're playing South Carolina State. Jackson State's coming in at 11-1. South Carolina State 6-5. I don't think anybody's gonna be
this
different here,
This
but
is pretty easy.
Yeah.
I think Jackson State all the way. Deion Sanders factor. They're riding a lot of momentum with that number one recruit. What's
did you
his
see
name?
the Trevor
Hunter or I forget
Travis,
his name.
I think.
Travis. Yeah, Travis Hunter. I think. is his
Travis
name.
Hunter. Yep.
I think. I mean, it's Deion. He's gonna be riding a lot of momentum into the next year. I think this is only taking their program to another level. The one thing I'm kind of interested to see is that, back when Florida State was in the coaching carousel, I'm surprised they didn't hire Deion, because Deion just took their number one recruit who was committed to that Florida State for 20 months. So that doesn't tell you anything about the trajectory of Jackson State. I'm rolling with Deion and the crew.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt. I'm running Jackson State as well. The one thing I'm so interested about this school especially is look, you got the number one recruit coming in next year, and obviously that's just the start. But Deion has shown that he wants to build that program up as being one of the best HBCUs in the country.
Yeah.
And what I'm so interested in, being 11-1, great first year or whatever year it is that Deion coaches.
This is year 2.
I think it's year 2 for him.
So a great year 2 for you. Now next year, I want to see them schedule some top Power 5 conference teams. Go against maybe some of the lower level Power 5s and see what you got, because you're getting the talent now. Because that's not even a problem anymore. Now let's see what you got against the big dogs and see what that changes. South Carolina State is just the puppy here that's just getting fed to the dogs.
They just had to pick another HBCU.
HBCU,
yeah. Those poor guys are like, man, we barely made a bowl game. We're gonna get run over by prime time.
Honestly, next season when they come back and they have 40 speed flexes in their equipment room instead of the 10 that they have now, it won't seem worth it on Saturday, but it might seem worth it then. I'm glad you mentioned that. That's one of the big things about Deion, and now Eddie George also being a coach at an HBCU, and Hugh Jackson just picked up a job as well. So the SWAC, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, is getting the big name coaches, the high level talent. And Deion said in the early press conference, when he got to Jackson State, they didn't have last names on the back of their jerseys. That costs a lot of money, and they're able to do that now.
UNC also does not have last names on the back of their jerseys.
So I mean,
There you go.
Deion is a great influence for that school. Are you going against Jackson State, or are you going with Coach Brown?
Honestly, I don't know a ton about either of the teams that are in this
You don't
bowl.
watch HBCU football?
I don't.
Ignorant
I know,
bastard.
huge surprise. But when I was going through and making these picks, I just looked at each game individually. And looking at each game individually, I mean, they won 7-6 back in September against Florida A&M. That shows me that they can win close games and they can tough it out.
That's a good point.
And then looking at some of these other games, they beat Alabama State 28-7. That means that they can score. They can put up points when they need to. Alabama A&M, they won 61-15. Again, they can score points when they need to. But then also in the closer games, like against, I'm assuming that's Mississippi Valley, MS Valley, they won 28-19. That's a closer game, but that still shows that, hey, they can play a little bit of defense too.
Yeah.
So I mean, to me,
Deion Sanders as your coach.
That
QB room
I
has
get
to be
it.
insane. And I think Deion Sanders Jr. is the quarterback.
And I get it. That's probably, obviously that you got one of the best defensive backs to ever play in the NFL as your coach. So obviously your defense,
Possibly
especially
the
your
best
back half of your
defensive
defense,
football player of all time.
especially
But
the
go
back
on.
half of your defense is going to be
By far.
insanely. They're going to have their assignments down and all that different stuff. So no surprise that they can play some defense. But looking at all of their games and all the points that they've scored, they're a very well-rounded team. So yes, I'm going with
Good
Jackson
point,
State.
Dom.
Yep. We're all on Jackson State in that game. That's going to be a fun one to watch. It's on ABC at 10 a.m., so it's the earlier.
Noon kick for
but
the
there's-
East Coast folks.
We're just getting into the Saturday slate. Saturday is going to be my favorite day of the weekend. New Mexico Bowl, next one up. Fresno State, without their quarterback who led them on that comeback victory earlier on in the season.
Wow.
Against USC.
He is not going to be playing in this game versus UTEP, University of Texas El Paso. This one, I'm a little bit. I'll start with my pick on this one. I picked Fresno, and that was mainly because I remembered that USC game. Now that I know that quarterback isn't playing, I'm a little bit weary on it. But UTEP, I didn't see anything necessarily jump out at me when I was doing my research on UTEP. So I'm going to stick with my gut feeling and my initial pick in Fresno. Jeremy, what are you thinking when you see the Bulldogs versus the Miners?
So a couple things here. Again, another one of these IU connections. Kalen DeBoer was the head coach of Fresno State, just took the job at Washington. and Penix Jr., our old IU coach or IU quarterback, ended up transferring there. So I kind of am pretty familiar with Fresno State. They turned the program around. A very successful year in beating USC. However, one of the things that I did mention earlier was travel, and being that UTEP is pretty close to New Mexico, I'm actually going to roll here with the Miners because yes, they had a very, very hot start and they finished pretty slow, but the fact is that again they don't have to travel as far, and for that reason, I know it sounds crazy. I like UTEP. I think with the coach going to Washington and not being at Fresno, and along with the quarterback, like Jimmy said, I'm rolling with UTEP.
Jeremy, I don't know how good your geographics is, but I hate to tell you, California is not that far from New Mexico.
I mean, but UTEP is state over. That's true.
It's not like
no. There's Arizona. There's Arizona.
No, one state in between.
UTEP is right right next to New Mexico.
Okay. It's not like this is a.
It's not like they're going cross country.
Yeah,
it's not like Buffalo going all the way out.
That's true. That's true. Hey, travel factor.
Continue to converse amongst yourselves. I'll get the exact distance. Nico, give us your pick.
I'm gonna go with the best team in the state of California for this season, and that's Fresno State. And the reason behind that is because you beat USC and UCLA, or you didn't beat UCLA, but UCLA fell off. So I'm gonna go with Fresno for that reason, even if it's not like obviously the quarterback makes a difference, coach makes a difference, but it's not like this is night and day. They're a far better off program right now than UTEP.
Momentum.
So I'm going with Fresno State. I'm not even hesitating with this one.
So I am also going with Fresno State. I'll start off with that. But Nico, they did beat UCLA 40-37.
Yeah, so they are. They are. I mean, I knew they were like the leaders in the California. I mean, I don't know how long that will be since Lincoln Riley came into town, but.
Jeremy was right. It's 900 miles from Fresno to New Mexico. It's 200 from.
Okay, it's still not.
It's 900 miles means something.
It's 700 miles difference. So yeah, Jeremy was right.
Either way, it's like my point still stands. It's not like they're going all the way across country, right? They're essentially.
It's a 1 hour time difference,
right?
It's not. Right. Let's not act like that's 700 miles,
exactly.
Because I'm pretty sure,
it's 700 miles because California is
they're
bigger
top,
than it needs to be. I got it. Yes.
So to continue though, again looking at all of their games, they've shown well-rounded play throughout the entire year. I mean, starting off all the way back in August, they shut out Connecticut. Again, it's Connecticut. I understand. It's hard to shut out a team.
They're not playing
general.
women's basketball over in Connecticut.
I understand. But it's hard to shut out a team in general, no matter how bad they might be. Okay, so it's impressive.
Good point.
You know, there's different levels of impressive, but it's impressive nonetheless. They played Oregon close. They only lost by a touchdown. They played and handily beat, not necessarily to anybody's surprise, Cal Poly. And then you can keep going through. They beat UCLA close. They can tough out those close games. And again, yes, they did lose to Hawaii, but it was a close game. So I'm going with Fresno State.
Yeah, we're all the only thing here. It's Mountain West versus CUSA. Which conference do you have a little bit more faith in? I think is a fair way to think about this game. I don't necessarily think that it's going to be a blowout, but I do think Fresno has enough to get the win in that one. So Jeremy is the odd man out for that game. Independence Bowl, next one up. Number 13 in the country, the BYU Cougars, 10-2 on the season, taking on the UAB Blazers. Interesting enough, UAB is actually under investigation per the NCAA right now.
Oh.
Didn't know if anybody else needed to know that. That is a thing that is happening. And BYU, unfortunately, didn't have the year that they thought they were going to have, but nothing to sneeze at. I think the main time that I watched BYU, they lost to Boise. But 10-2 on the year, not terrible. What are we thinking when it comes to the Independence Bowl, BYU versus UAB? Yeah, go ahead, Jared.
All right. Don, do you want to go first?
No, go ahead.
All right. So a couple of things here with this bowl game. Obviously, this bowl game has always been one of those kind of very tricky bowl games. I remember a couple years ago, Miami played Louisiana Tech, and Louisiana Tech beat Miami. So, if anything...
Miami not showing up at a bowl game?
Yeah. If anything, here's the thing with this. BYU obviously got the shaft when it comes to this bowl game, going from not playing, and obviously they're 13th ranked in the country, and they're playing all the way down the street for Louisiana. That doesn't make any sense to me. I think they're going to win. If they do end up winning, It would be the first time that they clinched 11-win season for BYU since 2006-2007, and it's just the fifth time that UAB is in a bowl game. So
I mean, their program was killed like 3 years ago. It's
that's
just
true.
Newly reinstated, and it's already under investigation.
So I think, like I said, I think BYU cruises. Going to be a tough game for BYU to get up for, just because it's a sleeper game. It's a nothing little bowl in a small town. I do like BYU. I think they cruise. And I hope they don't prove me wrong, but this bowl can bite you in the butt sometimes.
Yeah, by far my favorite line of this first weekend is this game. BYU is at -7 against a program that obviously has much more going on behind the scenes than that they're worried about necessarily than on the field. You're talking about that program being basically them scratching that program until like a big outcry by the fan base, and then bring them back. And then you have the investigation pending to BYU, like Jeremy said, 13th best team in the country, and they're not even like sniffing a good bowl game.
Yeah.
Like that
doesn't make any sense to me.
That's like.
It's the most wonderful time of the year, and who better to celebrate this special time in the college football bowl season, NFL playoffs getting ready to go, than betting with MyBookie, our sponsor, MyBookie.ag, because it is the easiest, most fun, and they have the best odds boost to place your money, especially when you sign up at MyBookie.ag and use promo code BENCH, BENCH.
There are so many great games to pick, whether it be bowl pick'em coming up. The NBA season is starting going. You know you're going to want to bet on the college football top 4 coming up in a few weeks. And we have some great games for football coming up. You can even bet on some racing too. The Formula 1 racing this past weekend obviously is over, but there's a lot of good stuff going on at MyBookie. You got to remember to use code BENCH, code BENCH for a double your first deposit.
Whether you want to bet your own hard-earned cash, cryptocurrency, anything like that, the best place to do so is at MyBookie.ag. And when you sign up to create your account, use our promo code BENCH, BENCH, to automatically double your first deposit up to $1,000. Get in on the winning today with MyBookie. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere at MyBookie.ag.
And that's something that BYU wants to cap off an 11-win season, and it may not be Taysom Hill, it may not be Zach Wilson at the head, but BYU is still a very, very solid program. So I'm going to be.
They beat 3 Power 5 teams this year, I believe,
and they're in the Independence Bowl.
Yeah,
that's like
terrible.
It's like
it could be a motivating factor. It could also be discouraging.
I agree, Jimmy.
I will tell you this. Going back to, it's a hard game to get up for. It's a crap bowl. They got the shaft, all that different stuff. Their strength coach, Coach Jeff Butler, used to be at UNC.
Try.
That man is the only reason why I got excited for 5 a.m. workouts. He will make sure that this team is up and ready to go and excited. And sure, you got the crap, you got the crap bowl. It's the Independence Bowl, okay? But I promise you.
Been to Shreveport, Louisiana?
No, I have not.
That's the big. It's not the name of the bowl. It's your fact that you're in Shreveport, Louisiana.
I can guarantee you that Coach Butler will make sure that BYU, the Cougars, are ready for this bowl. So I'm going with BYU.
I hope Cosmo does a halftime dance just because I like watching his TikTok videos. He's a good dancer. We're all on the Cougars in that one. BYU probably going to win that one easily. Next bowl game, the Lending Tree Bowl, another MAC school, and this one, Liberty. Liberty was a little bit interesting just because they had that great season last year, and then this year coming in at 7-5. Obviously, they fell back to earth. Jeremy, what do you got for Liberty versus the Flames versus Eastern Michigan, who surprisingly didn't do terrible on the year?
Eastern Michigan, both teams 7-5. What is the line on this game from you guys? What is it?
It's at plus, or is that -9 for Liberty, over under 58.5.
I believe Hugh Freeze still the coach of Liberty. They have a NFL quarterback prospect, I believe. I don't know his name quite. Malik Willis, that's it.
He's also the leading rusher on the team.
I'm very curious to see if he plays in this game, and I know this game is not till it's not for a couple days, but I believe he is playing. So I'm going to roll with Liberty here, just because I think this is his last opportunity to play, try to improve his draft stock. Obviously, Liberty finished out the year with pretty tough year with 3 losses in a row. So they are on that slope. They did play some tough teams though. Ole Miss, Louisiana, and Army. Not easy teams by any. Army this year could score. They're up and down all over the place. So But hey, Hugh Freeze, I think the quarterback balls out to try to prove his stock just because it's his last game. And it being on ESPN, it's on a bigger network for Liberty that's usually not ESPN. So I'm rolling with them. We're rolling with the Flames.
I'm going to do the exact same thing because I think Malik Willis wants to be considered one of the top quarterbacks in this draft class, in a QB class that obviously isn't what last year's was or possibly what next year's is as well. So he's trying to set himself apart, and you face a team that's obviously Eastern Michigan is not like a big time school, and you had a tough end of the year schedule. Why not go show out? And like I said, I'm very interested to see if he even plays. If he does, like I could see them get up, like him trying to run up the score, and then just end the game, like not have him play second half for that matter, because I think he still wants to put some highlights up on the tape against a school that's not as well known in Eastern Michigan. So I'm gonna go Liberty here, even though that 3-game skid at the end. I think Malik Willis has an agenda that he wants to put out there so that he can get into that top 10 range where he can get a little bigger of a payday in the NFL draft.
And I'm also going with Liberty here. I don't know if there's been one that we've really disagreed on.
Yeah, Dom, we're on the same page.
Yeah,
I'm trying to win this year, Dom.
That's a scary thought. Anyways, I am going with Liberty here. Those last 3 games that they lost, Ole Miss, 8th-ranked team in the country, not really a surprise that they lost there. Louisiana, we already said, hell of a good team, 16th ranked in the country. Really, again, not really a big surprise. And then Army and Air Force this year have really impressed me. The last 2 years, actually, honestly. Army's been good the last however many years, but the last 2 years, those two have kind of been in tandem, in my opinion, with how they've increased their talent level and how well they've played. So those last 3, I wouldn't really worry too much about. I think that they go out in this bowl game and they show out, so I'm going with Liberty.
Not so fast, everybody. Liberty, yes, Malik Willis is a great player. If he gets taken in the top 10 of the draft, that just means that the NFL is broken and these GMs are
people are hungry for
ridiculous.
Broncos want him?
He will probably get drafted to the Broncos. They probably won't change what they need to for Malik Willis, and he's probably going to fizzle out in 3 years because he's a guy that has to be drafted into the right situation. He's not going to mold into your pocket quarterback or anything like that. My thing with this game is Malik Willis is the only thing on Liberty. He is their leading passer, their leading rusher. If he could throw it and catch it himself, he'd probably be their leading receiver. So all you have to do is shut down Malik Willis, and you can use 11 guys to do that because Liberty has nobody else that you have to worry about.
So what you're telling me is he runs the ball, he throws the ball, he'll walk your dog, he'll paint the back.
Yeah, no, he's Booby Miles reincarnated, but he's going to get shut down because all Eastern Michigan has to do. He doesn't have a burner. He doesn't have a good receiver out there that he can throw it up to. He doesn't have a giant tight end that's going to give Eastern Michigan problems. If Eastern Michigan, they're going to send the house at him, and then they're going to have one guy spy him, and you're going to be able to negate anything that he can do. He is not a game-changing quarterback. He's a very fun college quarterback to watch.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, I will say this. Hasn't every team tried to do that this year, and they still ended up winning 7 games? I mean, like, this guy's special. I mean, if he's a top prospect in the draft. Obviously, the draft this year for quarterbacks is not as high as it was last year, but that being said, I mean, this guy's still a player. I mean, what you're telling me is that if he does it all, what does it change between a bowl game and the regular season? I don't know. I mean,
I feel like a signature win.
I feel like primetime TV's got to ball out. He has to.
And like, what's the difference between Eastern Michigan and some of the other teams that Liberty has either beat or lost to? I don't see a whole lot of difference.
Here's the thing: if they beat Eastern Michigan would be their best win of the season.
Oh, that's a good. Wow, I didn't know that. So
that's a fair point.
That's every single good team that Liberty has played, and yes, I will give you. I'm on board with you guys. Their last 3 games that they've lost, all great teams. But they also lost to Syracuse earlier on in the season. Syracuse isn't a great teom. Yeah. That would have been their best win if they won that game. Right now, the best win that I'm seeing on their schedule is probably UAB.
Who we just talked about, right? So I don't know.
It's not great. That's not great. Eastern Michigan, I believe, would be their best win of the season. So for that reason, I think that I'm gonna put my eggs in Eastern Michigan's basket. I'm trying to win too.
Good point. Hey,
I'm here to win. I'm not here to. I ain't here to just compete. I'm here to win. That's what I'm here for. So I'll be the.
All you gotta do is beat Jeremy, and you're on the podium. That's all you gotta do.
There you go.
I don't.
Well, actually, you just gotta beat Nico.
Podiums.
You gotta beat Nico because he came in last year.
The same thing in Olympics. We don't take second and third place.
If you're second, you're the first loser.
Hey, all I'm saying is
Surprised
I'm
Dom didn't
saying
have a
it.
crown this year. You know, where's his crown?
I'm a college kid. I can't afford a crown.
I know.
I can barely even afford a Burger King
Tell your
crown.
brother to get a crown. You put it on your head for the champion.
One of those that come with the freaking kids meal. I can't even
Oh, there you
afford
go.
that.
There you go.
I should have just got you a hat then and called that the crown.
Well, let's
Next
move
year,
on.
next
Let's
time.
move on. The LA Bowl. Have you ever been to LA?
Wait.
I have
This is
been
the
to
Jimmy
LA.
Kimmel LA Bowl.
Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl
What?
at SoFi Stadium.
Jimmy
Yes,
Kimmel.
yeah.
That is news to me. I did not know he had a
So
bowl game.
if you have enough money, you can buy a bowl game.
Buy bowl game.
Everybody can buy
The Nico
a bowl
Bryant bowl game here in a couple years.
If you sponsor, we could have a Fire Into the Bench bowl game.
There you
Why
go.
not?
Well, Barstool has one, of course.
Yeah.
Barstool's a little.
I understand.
Let me talk to you
Farther
here.
at
Barstool's a little bit different.
I understand,
than-
but my point is, Barstool started off as a podcast like that. Why can't you guys do
That's
that?
true.
You know, obviously not right now, but as soon as you can, why wouldn't you?
yeah.
Make money off of it.
In this game, we have Oregon State out of the Pac-12 versus Utah State, Mountain West champion. The biggest surprise of championship weekend, I believe, was the Utah State Aggies taking down 24th ranked San Diego State and doing it easily. That was
Yeah.
something. I think it was one of the biggest. I think it's the biggest upset in Mountain West Conference championship history. They were 6-point dogs and not only covered, beat them by 30. Utah State is a damn good team. Oregon State not terrible, and Oregon State plays good defense. But I just want to make sure that we all understand how good Utah State is before we get into our picks. Jeremy, what do you got?
Couple things here. Yeah, obviously Utah State's riding the high. I always will fact check you. Nico, what's the line on this one too? I always like to have that in the back of my mind.
On this one, it's -7 for Oregon State,
-7.
which is super intriguing.
It's a very intriguing line. I will say this: Utah State has generally not had minus the San Diego State game, has not had very good defense, and Oregon State can run the ball pretty well. So Oregon State is also the other team that has wins over, get this, the champion of the Pac-12, Utah, Arizona State, who was actually not too bad this year, and then USC, which is, USC in maybe a couple years might be a good win. Not right now, they weren't very good. But that being said, I think I think Oregon State runs the ball, they control the clock, they control the tempo. The quarterback for Utah State is pretty good. He has over 3,500 yards. So I think if they keep him off the field and run the ball, control the clock, I think Oregon State takes the cake on this one in the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl.
I'm gonna ride with you, Jared. I'm gonna go Oregon State as well. I will say Utah State will cover. I think -7 is ridiculous. So I think it'll be a much closer game than that. I think they hammer the cover spread. But I'm gonna go Oregon State because I think Utah State. When you yes, we joke about the Pac-12 being Conference of Champions and being lesser than the Power 5 conferences, but I think Oregon State is one of the middle of the road teams, and I don't think Utah State would still be able to hold a jock to some of the middle of the road Power 5 schools. And I think Oregon State will be able to get the win. I'm not, like as Jeremy said, the running game is going to be the big factor here.
Yeah.
One game at the end of the season, I'm not going to put my betting odds on that, even because, like I said, the Mountain West is always up in the air for what the hell is going to go on.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to put all my money in there, but I do think it's a closer game than -7. So for that matter, I'm going to go Oregon State, but Utah State covers.
I'm going Utah State, and I'll tell you why. The reason why is, and like I just said, Air Force has been on the up and up the last few years.
Yeah.
I've been in that program personally. I know exactly what they're trying to build, all that different stuff. And looking at this, their games back in September, they ended up beating Air Force by 4, which might not seem like a lot, but beating a team like Air Force by 4 shows me that not only can you put up enough points to actually compete with them, but you can also stand up and play some defense when it really counts. That little 4 increase or that 4 difference there, that shows me that sure, maybe their defense isn't great all the time, but when it counts, their defense shows up. So Utah State.
I'm also on Utah State, and it's mainly because it's a short time ago, but Oregon State's coming off of a season a couple years ago where they won 1 game. And looking at Utah State's schedule, they beat teams like Washington State, and if you want to talk about middle of the pack, Pac-12, Oregon State is lower than Washington State on that totem pole. I think the Aggies not only cover the spread, I would take the Aggies outright because I think Utah State is a much better team than Oregon State, and for that reason, I'm on Utah State as well. So we're split down the middle in that one. Next game up, last game on Saturday, New Orleans
games
Bowl.
on Saturday. Holy cow! Yeah.
We're starting off hot, and there's a thing that they say for March Madness, we will sleep in
May.
In May.
Yep.
I'm going to be sleeping in February after the Super Bowl. Bowl season is when football consumes my life, and I'm more than happy with this.
Don't sleep for too long, because then you got March Madness right around the corner.
Yes, here's the thing.
Yeah,
I pay attention to the
The
podcast.
March Madness side about the
Nico,
fans
I was
are
gonna
always
say,
here.
like,
We
you have
don't.
your March Madness. Don't get me wrong. I like watching some of the games.
I enjoy April.
Super Bowl's a yawn fest compared to March
Well,
Madness.
March Madness just kicks into another game.
Yeah.
That hurt a little
Yeah,
bit.
Yeah, I know you
It
NFL
stings.
boys. I've
It
always
stings.
been on the college sports bandwagon, but hey, you know,
college football,
yeah,
college
I agree.
wrestling.
Okay.
College basketball.
March Madness,
That's
maybe.
what, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly.
Please tell me. Wait, before we get back into it, please tell me you guys fill out a bracket at least.
For which I made them. They
Thank
go
God.
out.
Okay,
Well,
we're good. That's all I
here's
want.
my thing.
10 wrestling brackets every year.
See how you feel about March Madness. How I feel about wrestling. I have no idea.
Here's my thing. I have not been old enough to actually put in a bracket and have money down on it.
Okay.
I've also been a part of NCAA programs where you're not supposed to bet. So I haven't filled out a March
Not
Madness.
supposed to.
I know, that's why I said
Key
not.
word
supposed to.
Key word is not supposed to.
And if the court reporter reads my statement back, I did not perjure myself.
I don't recall. Anyways, so I have not filled out one of the March Madness brackets.
Okay.
But
You have a good reason.
I have,
Your
I have
brother
two
on the other hand,
reasons. I have
I
two
don't
reasons.
Well, you're talking to two people over here fill out 10 brackets a year. Doing
Die
some
hard.
stupid
I
shit.
don't like-
I
This
ran our bracket this year on ESPN. That's true.
Hey, Jimmy knows.
I don't want to be this guy, but how much money have y'all lost filling out 10 brackets?
You don't
We don't-
bet. You don't
we
bet
don't
on
ask
every
it.
single
You
one.
can do it on like
fill
on
them out.
ESPN.
Yeah, you fill
but
them out.
I'm also here. I'm also like, yeah, I fill out 10 brackets, but for just like fun. But I'm always about the one bracket. Like you live and die by that bracket. And
Yeah,
it goes-
you got the one
and
where
you
you
guess what?
actually do your
every
research,
year.
and then you got the
goes
others
this
that are
shit.
very-
And you fill out the other 10 in hopes that you beat that one person that you get the perfect bracket. It's not like I'm looking at all 10 like desperately. I look at my one bracket I throw money on, and the other ones I'm like, oh, please be 100%, please be 100%, please be 100%.
It's not polite to ask degenerate gamblers how much money they've
I'm
lost.
just-
It's
look,
just like how it's
it was
not
an
polite to
honest
ask a
question.
woman what she weighs.
I mean,
It was an honest
but for like March Madness brackets and for bowl pools, which I'll talk about in a little bit. We'll get into that. You just you fill out a sheet and you only throw in like $25.
Oh,
So you're not like betting like $25 on like Duke versus Michigan State or whatever. So that's kind of how it works. So
I
it's
got
not
you.
like
I
it's
got
not like
you.
you're betting every single game.
That's fair. So,
You're just
You're-
trusting yourself to do good. That's all.
look, that just shows you how I don't gamble.
There you go.
I don't.
There you
And the one big difference between college bowl season and college madness is one game's not going to fuck up the rest of your season. If I lose the Independence Bowl,
There you go.
I'm not going to be my whole bracket's not busted.
Yeah, we are totally on opposite ends of the spectrum
Well-
because when I lose, I get upset.
When
In
Illinois
bowl season, I get upset.
when Illinois loses in the second round, you have them winning it all.
Well,
You go a little screwed.
What? Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, let's get back into the New Orleans Bowl. That should probably tell you how entertaining this game is going to be because Louisiana Lafayette is going to murder Marshall. This is not going to be. It's not close. It's not close.
I beg to differ.
Okay.
I will say the same. I'm
Go ahead, Nick. Fire away. You're jumping out of the
I'm
bed
going to
here.
go Marshall too because I think Lafayette is too high on themselves. I think that they've beaten some bad teams, and I think that they're feeling like they should. They feel like they're disrespected. They should be higher than 23 where they're at right now. And I think Marshall is always the good story during bowl season. They always make a game out of whatever bowl game they're in. They might not win a lot, but they make it interesting. So I think I'm going to give Marshall the nod here as a wild card in this situation. I am fully prepared to lose this game.
Question:
But-
Is Matthew McConaughey coaching Marshall?
No, he's not
Is
coaching.
Randy
He's
Moss-
worried about his Texas program right now.
Well,
His
I mean,
shambles.
yeah, he's got plenty to worry about there. I'm just asking because I think that might be the only way Marshall can pull this one off.
I will say this. I have some arguments for Marshall. Couple things. Again, I'm gonna stick to my guns here, and I did it for the Fresno UTEP game. I'm rolling with Marshall because of the fact that Louisiana Raging Cajuns just lost their coach Billy Napier to Florida. I know it's a home game for them. I know it's in the dome. I know that it is. All the cards look like it's gonna be Louisiana, and they've had a great season, 12-1. Not taking anything away from that. I mean, I just think a couple things. Marshall's going to be up for this game. Again, another ESPN game. And a lot of the times, I always sing how to catch this game on ESPN every year. It's the night shift game, so it's on prime time. Wells has over 3,400 passing yards. The running back, Ali, has over 1,200 rushing yards on the year with 20 touchdowns. So these guys can score a little bit. And I know Louisiana obviously had a great season. They want to end on a strong note. But again, with Billy Napier leaving to Florida, it does take a little bit of wind out of the sails. I think it's going to be close. What's the line again on this game? I know I always say
it's -5.
-5.
Lafayette.
You would think that this would be a 10-point dog,
Yeah,
but I like Marshall. I don't know why.
I want to say before the coach leaving, I think Lafayette was like a super favorite.
Yeah.
And I think that line
now probably it's dropped big time. Don, what do you think?
I go with the Raging Cajuns.
Okay.
Looking at their season overall, truthfully, I mean they've had a couple good wins. Georgia State, one of them that stands out to me. Appalachian State, another bowl game participant as well. And then also Liberty. We were just talking about, both of those teams.
This is one of the teams that shut down Malik Williams, by the way.
Correct. This is one of those teams that figured out the.
Don't you disrespect ever Bronco quarterback Malik Willis?
I thought you wanted Matt Corral.
I wanted.
Wait, how many
Aaron
quarterbacks are we up to?
Wait,
Russell Wilson. Do you want
Is
me
that
to
a
go?
mop? Yeah, I want the mop as the quarterback. I like how it's tall.
Is
That's
it
how you guys
6'5"?
pick out
Still better than
quarterbacks.
anything the Jets put out.
Well, I can't really speak
Yeah.
to that.
Oh, boy.
I don't speak for the brand or the company. Anyways, I go with the Raging Cajuns in this one.
Yeah, I'm going Louisiana as well. I think it's a different talent pool that you're pulling from. I know Billy Napier left, and that should shift the line the way that it did. These are still the talented kids that he brought in. And when you're recruiting in Louisiana, here's the thing. You don't have to go very far. You can basically walk down any street, and you can find a super athlete. They just grow on trees out there. I don't know what it is. The South, that's the thing. How do you... we talked about it a couple weeks ago. I don't know how you have a losing program in the SEC when you're Florida, when you're LSU, any of those teams down in the Southeast, because you have the best players in the country right outside your door. So for that reason, that's why I'm going with the Raging Cage. It's interesting. Saturday started off, we were all in lockstep. Now we've gotten into a couple arguments. It's getting interesting. So that's Saturday's slate. Let's go ahead. We'll get into Monday, December 20th is the next time that we'll have college bowl season, since, the NFL and happens on, they own Sunday. So we'll get into Monday's games now.